cannot rely on the United States, obviously, anymore, like it used to be in the last decades. So that makes a lot of insecurity.
I think the United States doesn't want to be the leader of the world anymore. The United States is more affected with their own country. Trump does withdraw from a lot of international things.
I think he's very, very egoistic, very narcissistic in a way, and he's unfortunately not the only one right now.
I'm concerned, of course I'm concerned with the autocratic tendencies, but I think that it's not the first time, and I believe that they will manage to find the right way. I'm optimistic.
Welcome to the Diplomacy Podcast, where we explore how diplomacy shapes our world and our lives. I'm Nicholas Kralev. The United States still receives more attention from the world's media than any other country, and the average citizen on every continent is fairly well informed about what happens in Washington. So, what do they think about the Trump administration's actions in the last 9 months, and how are they affected by those actions? During a recent trip to Europe, I posed these questions to people from several countries, and you will hear the responses of some of them. Not everyone agreed to go on the record, and some of those interviews were not recorded. My conversations took place before Trump announced on October 9th that Israel and Hamas had accepted the first phase of his proposed plan to end the war in Gaza, for which he has won much praise. The Europeans and one American who has made Austria his home for the past quarter century focused on developments in the United States and Trump's handling of Europe. They did not discuss his Middle East policies. I plan to travel to the Middle East and other parts of the world in the coming months, so you will hear from people there as well on future episodes. For now, let's hear from the Europeans.
My name is Thomas Wilflingseder. I'm 52 years old. I'm from Salzburg. I studied journalism and political science in Salzburg, and I spent my last decades of work in politics and journalism. To be honest, there's a lot of disappointment at the moment. The US, for me, stood as the beacon of freedom, of democracy, and free speech. But it all came with responsibility and accountability. If there happened something like Abu Ghraib or Watergate or some things in Vietnam, there was accountability, and they did not need some other countries or anybody else to hold them accountable. They had some mechanisms to clean the mess up themselves, and I obviously call it checks and balances or call it free media. Obviously, it does not work like that anymore. We cannot rely on the United States, obviously, anymore, like it used to be in the last decades. So that makes a lot of insecurity. But on the other side, maybe it's an opportunity to stand on our own feet much more. And I would love to go to Canada again. But the United States, no. I'm afraid I said too many unfriendly things about your president on social media. So maybe they would keep me at the border or get me arrested or something like that. No. I think at the moment I'm not very interested.
My name is Christoph Koetlinski. I was born and raised in Vienna, and I live in Salzburg since 1988, where I moved to my first job. Right now I'm a zookeeper. Interesting and special, but I love it. The United States used to be a very stable and secure partner of the European community, and it was reliable. It was something that you can just count on. And that actually has changed completely because the administration over there is changing the mind from day to day, and it's reversing facts and figures every day. And it's just something that makes insecure and frightening. The people in America are not reflecting in a way. It's not for me to decide and not for me to judge, but I think it's a lot of people that actually found President Trump is going to make America great again. He's going to find something new and something special, and it's going to be better for all of us. And facts show different things, and that's one of the problems. The president of the United States used to be someone who you can just rely on. If any American president of the past would have said something, there was something that's got weight, that was counting. There was something everybody was affected in a way, and it was therefore important, of course. And that changed in a way that somebody is saying something, changing his mind for the next day, explaining things that are definitely wrong or just not facts at all. And I think that's a problem because you can't just handle with you can't agree or go along with someone like him. You can't rely on him. You can't count on him. You can't plan anything anymore. It's like the insecurity and the anxiety around is just growing, and nobody knows where it's going to lead. I think he's very, very egoistic, very narcissistic in a way, and he's unfortunately not the only one right now. So there's a lot of more or less the same sort of people dealing with a lot of power, dealing with a lot of money and economical force and power that just changes the whole world right now. I think there's a lot of these narcissistic people that are just doing for their own benefits and for their own advantages. And it's hard to watch that, actually. I think it might be the start of a bigger change of the whole global system. We get a lot of real big problems with climate change and everything. And someone who's denying it at times like this, unbelievable. Human being is the only one destroying the base of his living knowingly. No animal, no other creature on this world would ever think about it or do it.
My name is Roswitha Dien. I am an Austrian citizen, have lived here for the majority of my life. I have lived in the United States for a number of years, was married to an American, so I have sort of part of my life was spent very closely with the US and in the US. And I have studied political science in the past. So one of my majors was political science, which is why I'm very interested in the political system in general. I lived in the States around the year 2000, late 90s to early 2000s. And that was really a time I remember it as very positive. And I didn't really get a sense that the country was divided, which is a sense that I get these days. I think the United States doesn't want to be the leader of the world anymore. The United States is more affected with their own country. Trump does withdraw from a lot of international things. Now you might say, okay, we don't send troops anymore. We don't send money anymore. We don't send foreign aid anymore. We don't send we don't use our soft power anymore. So I think the United States has decided to withdraw itself much more from its role of global leader. And so in that sense, I'm sure that'll change, and other powers will come to place. And now you have the European democracies, and then you have other countries which are not democratic and which are a much stronger economic force than Europe is these days, like China. And then you have countries like Russia who are a threat to sort of the entire global system or to their neighbors. So yes, this vacuum that Trump and the US is creating is being filled. It's not necessarily being filled by people who I think create security for the world. I think Trump is definitely doing damage because he is erratic in his in his decisions, and I'm like, you want to believe some of the things he says. You want to believe, oh, I'm going to end the Ukraine war, or I'm going to bring the hostages home. Oh, that's all. I mean, you want to believe that. And then there are some signs that things are happening. But of course, there's other, and happening maybe in positive directions, but of course, there's other people on the other side of the table who then don't go the way that Trump suggests or wants to go. And then what are you then left with, or what is Trump left with? Either with following up on his threats and saying, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger on whatever now, or really having to go back, and then he sometimes diverts it to then another crisis situation, which there are many of in the world. So
my name is Dave Long. I'm originally from Massachusetts. I've been working in marketing for over 20 years for a large company here in Austria. And yeah, this is my home now. When I came over here, that was the first time I'd ever left the United States. And so I was living over here for 6 months initially at the beginning. And when people heard my accent, it was usually a really enjoyable conversation. Someone would say, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'd say, "I'm from the United States." And generally, they would mention that they'd been to Disneyland the year before, or they had an uncle who owned a bakery in Chicago, and or that they'd always wanted to go, or they asked me if America really looks like it does in the movies. And that was generally the extent of the conversation. And then I noticed after, not specifically September 11th, but more after the U.S. decided to invade Iraq, the conversations became almost all political and mostly negative. And that was the first time I realized that I'm not just an American living in another country. I'm not just an expat. I'm kind of an involuntary representative of my own country. And I quickly realized I didn't want to be in a position of having to defend my country constantly. So the conversations would more just be an open conversation. I would want to know why that person felt that way. And then I would try to explain to them that even within the US, there's many different opinions. And there were many different opinions, and there was certainly polarization back then, but it didn't have the kind of vitriolic animosity that there seems to be today. So in terms of what's changed recently, that path on the one hand is now the same. So I was hoping that it would swing back to the way it was in the 90s, where people would just say, "Oh, you're from the US," and then that would kind of be the end of the conversation. No, it's really my heritage has become this political stamp upon my identity, which I can't shake. It's always there. So much so that I have a American blues rock band in Salzburg, and in the early years we founded just towards the end of the first Trump administration, and we marketed ourselves as authentic American blues rock. And we continued to do so during the Biden administration. And since then, I've been actually changing some of the wording in our marketing, authentic North American blues rock and things like that, which is sad. And, I've never denied that I'm American. I don't feel the need to, and I wouldn't want to. But again, being an expat today means that you're in a situation where you can explain the way things are in the States to the best of your knowledge with people, and sometimes accept the flaws that our country has, but also present some of the good things that the country certainly still does have to offer, which is just so much more harder now with Trump. It does seem like everyone's unified in agreement that what's happening now has never happened before. This is just a new level of, I don't know if saying insanity is too much, but it feels like a new level of insanity where things are coming out of the Oval Office, the presidency, which used to be this kind of holy institution that people respected, regardless of whether it was a Republican or a Democrat sitting there. But now it's not even a Republican or Democrat. There's just this person there who's become a cult of personality and is acting more like an authoritarian than the president of a democratic nation. And that's kind of the opinion that I hear almost every day when I get in these conversations with people I know, with people I meet. Everyone does seem to be unified in the opinion that the U.S. feels like, it's just gone off the tracks. So I just got married in the United States just a month and a half ago, and there was about 20 friends and family from Salzburg who came over to the wedding, and many of them were concerned before they came about what it would be like to enter the U.S. They'd heard stories about people getting detained, people being questioned. But I do have to say, once we were there, no one had any problems entering the country. And by the time we all got back, I've heard nothing but great things from our Austrian friends and family who were there, and what a wonderful time they had, how friendly the Americans were. So I suppose it's like anything. It's, when you deal in stereotypes, it's easy to look at the U.S. right now and say everyone's crazy, and everyone is kind of doing that. But at the end of the day, America is still a country of individuals, and the majority of those individuals do not support the current politics. In terms of how that affects Austrians or people in Salzburg on a day-to-day, I would say that there seems to be a lot of uncertainty and anxiety about where it could lead to. That's certainly the case. They certainly do take the situation seriously, and they are very concerned about where it leads to. But as of today, I would say generally, and this is just my opinion, I don't think it affects people here too much. I've been here for 26 years, so most of my interactions are with Austrians that I've, very, very close relationships with. And they're often very quick to point the finger at their own governments as well. And I don't think anyone feels able to explain the current state of political affairs, whether it's in the US or even in Europe. It just does feel like things are becoming more polarized. A lot of people who are in the center, certainly people who are on the left, are having a very difficult time understanding how people on the right are behaving nowadays. That's not a uniquely American thing. I've felt that in Europe as well.
My name is Diana Sabutinova, and I'm professor of economics at Burgas Free University. The United States of America have been the beacon of light for me. As an economist, the most important thing for society is the way it treats its people and the way people live in that society. If the United States are able to sustain their institutions, they will continue to be the leader of the free world. If they follow the founding fathers and what it meant to be American, and it will be 250 years next year, and the values of Western civilization are followed, they won't be a problem. I think they went too far to the left. They needed to pivot to the more right, not right wing, but the centric direction, not to the extreme left, not to the extreme right. Maybe we need a more balanced politics. If you count the countries in the United Nations, there are 193 countries, maybe 90 of them are democracies. And if you take the data, maybe only 13% of world population lives in truly democratic countries. And there is this theory in international economic relations that if you want to have stable financial world order, you need to have a country, a democracy, that is the leader of the free world. And if it's not the United States of America, maybe the next in line will be China. It won't be good for the world, because I like to say when the Roman Empire collapsed, the Dark Ages came. So people who don't like the United States of America should ask the question, in comparison to what was the alternative? What are you proposing? Which society is better? And as an economist, what are the outcomes of a society? How people live? What are the innovations? What is the entrepreneurial activity? If you look all around us, everything is invented where? In the Western world. I teach economics, as I've already said. Tariffs are always bad for international trade. It's something that everybody knows. But there is this theory that tells us if you are a big country, but not big as a size, but big in connection with some product, you can impose a tariff. And this tariff can be beneficial to you because you can put the burden on the producer of the exporting country. And maybe that's happening now. Yes, it doesn't seem nice to the other countries, but the countries can do that. And the only time that certain economy can gain from imposing a tariff, it becomes very professional, but it's when the money that you take from the exporting countries are more than the money you lose, than the net loss from trade is less than the money you get. So this is not the way it should be done, of course. But if you are a powerful country and if you are in the position to maintain the price, to ship the price of a product, then we can do it. And I'm concerned, of course, I'm concerned with the autocratic tendencies, but I think that it's not the first time. And I believe that they will manage to find the right way. I'm optimistic. The way the system is established, they thought of everything, and they put some impediments for the autocrats to stay in power. I think they have robust institutions that won't allow that. The system is made in such a way that it won't be possible to destroy it.
One can always hope. And on that note, thank you for joining us. Remember, diplomacy is the world's best hope. See you next time.